What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Expert Mentors Live. What's going on, Pierre?
I'm always excited to meet with John Kitchens, that's for sure.
Anytime I can, get into a conversation with you, I know it's going to be excellent, and no different today. I know we're catching you. Previous conversations we've had, you've been up north, man. You're down south. The tan's looking good.
Hasn't even been that warm yet. Arizona has been actually a little cool lately. So, we've only had a couple of days in the 70s. So, I mean, it's, but the golf course will help with the tan for sure.
Yes, it will. It absolutely will. So, Pierre, kind of share with everybody kind of a little bit of your background, your story. We'll kind of fast forward into, how you're spending time, almost a little bit of a snowbird these days down south, and obviously still running the organization team from afar, but kind of share, give some context and some background, how things kind of started out for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I started about this is my 20th year in the business, and I did 7 years at a big name brokerage, and got sick and tired of paying them $100,000 a year. So yes. I decided I was going to open a franchise, and then looked into it. Took 11 months to look into it, and decided it just wasn't worth it. Like, I needed 75 agents just to be profitable. I had a team of about 6 at the time, and we just decided, you know what, let's just open our own brokerage, right? So we went independent and ran our brokerage like a team model. And we did that for, 10 years. And then all of a sudden, things were going, fairly well. There's always the ups and the downs, right? The downside of it was a lot of crap to deal with, a lot of liability, a lot of, training and coaching and babysitting the agents. Our biggest year of commissions was actually my worst year profit wise, because our expenses were so high. So we knew we had to make a change. And that involved me getting back into production. So every time I tried to get out of production, the profit would drop. So I got back into production, and then the profits were through the roof and things were good. And, we were running a well-oiled machine. And then all of a sudden, Andre LaFontaine calls me and throws a wrench into the whole thing and says, "Have you heard of EXP?" So we took a really, really close look at the model, and it just made a lot of sense. Like, it actually made me nervous when I saw the model as an owner. I was like, man, if this is coming to Canada, I'm in trouble, because I can't compete with this. There's nothing I can do that I can offer my agents that will compete with their models. So we, after a lot of research and a lot of conversations with you guys, we decided to shut down our brokerage. And I'll tell you, it was one of the toughest things I ever did. Right. And I remember the sign coming down, and I had tears in my eyes, because I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Right. Like, is this going to work? And so 3.5 years later, we went from having 15 agents. When we left, 2 agents didn't come with us. 13 of them did. And I'm thankful for those people. And today we're at 600 agents. So we're just over 600 agents today. And we have a local team of about 30 agents. And things are a lot less stressful. I'm now, I have the opportunity to work from Arizona in the winter because of this model. And you were a key factor with that when we were looking at, when I was looking at getting out of doing the sales side of things and transitioning into more of the, agent attraction and building the global team. You were the crucial, part there, right? I'm like, I need John Kitchens in my corner here to help me, because you had done it, right? You had worked with Jay and Al and all those guys, so you knew what was involved in that, right? So we decided to do that, and last winter was our first winter, strictly doing that. And so we added a lot of agents this year, which is nice. And now we've got some pretty audacious goals that we're going to try to hit this year for sure, and try to double what we have right now in the next 12 months. So yeah.
I love it. And I know, kind of our conversation and the theme is around, team building, and, just listening to your story there, and, just if people jump to the end result, they're going to miss what it takes to get to that point. And, focusing on, the things in the decisions early on. And, for you, you looked at, getting into the business. what was that initial jump for you? And then at what point, like, you had 6 and then, hey, let's do our own thing. And then we grow it to here. And then, we, make this transition here. But early on in the beginning, and this is just kind of, I think, important for a lot of agents to hear, is at what point do you make that transition to say, hey, okay, it's time to create more leverage. Hey, it's time to build this team out if I want to. And what does that mean? Because, a lot of people think building out the team, they're like, okay, well, yeah, it's instantly going to be, I'm just going to, they start doing the math, right? They're like, well, hey, this agent can bring me this, but they don't understand what it takes to be able to get to that point. And sometimes, they go backwards a little bit in their revenue and their profitability as they're trying to build the team. But from your perspective and your viewpoint, like what was it in the beginning early on? You're like, hey, I got to create some leverage. I do want to build this team.
Well, I guess it got to a point where I was so busy that, I was never home. Right.
Mm.
And I knew that something needed to be done. And, I always was under the impression that nobody could do it as good as me. And, so then finally I hired a coach. So it took me 5 years to hire a coach. And finally, I hired a coach and my business doubled. And at the time it was, it was all about implementing systems and getting things, getting my business in order and not just being focused on selling all the time. And now we had to get some leverage. So the first thing we did was we hired an assistant. First year, I thought, okay, this is going to take a lot off my plate, but actually my business doubled because I was now focused on those money-making activities, which is what my coach had told me. First 5 years, I was just throwing mud on the wall as fast as I could. Stuff was sticking, stuff wasn't. I wasted a lot of money. I wasted a lot of time. If I would have been smart and I would have hired a coach right in the beginning who had a team, who knew how to build a team, that would have changed, everything for me, right? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. Loud and clear.
Something else just happened here. It says I'm connecting to audio. So anyway, so then basically after, we hired an assistant, I hired a second assistant because the first one didn't work. and then after the second assistant, I went to a third assistant. And I realized real quick that I was looking for somebody that could do everything. I was looking for somebody who could do great paperwork, marketing, be an ISA and call clients and all that. And what I found was, that was very hard to find somebody who could do everything. And my expectations were just maybe a little too high. So then eventually we hired, we had 2 people and then we had a buyer's agent because now I just couldn't handle the volume myself.
Yeah.
So then that's when the buyer's agent started coming and then we started growing that. And that's kind of where it started. And then it just kind of evolved from there.
Yeah. And usually, in the beginning, it's a necessity out of pain, right? And, making that initial hire out of pain instead of focusing, okay, well, if I'm, like you said, if I had, a framework to make a better decision, then it would have been completely out of a gain. And that's what it ultimately was. It relieved pressure, but you know what you're supposed to be doing. It frees you up to do more time and end up doing, twice the amount of production. And so looking at those investments, right? Those are investments. And what was the ROI on that first hire, right? What was the return on that investment? And, the misconception, I believe, is a lot of people look at it as, hey, I'm bringing people in, but look at this expense I'm taking on. It's like, no, it's not an expense. What's the ROI? And the only thing that it becomes an expense is if you don't reallocate the time that they're taking off of your plate. Now, do we need better quality of life sometimes? Yes. But that's still an investment, right? Because you're getting a return back on, the high lifetime value, the high relationship activities that you tend not to get to when you're working, 80, 90 hours a week, 7 days, there's no breaks, there's no nothing until it's a forced break, right? It's either health or, ultimatums or things that, you've got to make those adjustments. And I think that's a great point to when you let the production drive the decision to make those additional hires. I mean, you now in the business for so long, even coaching and leading other agents that are building out their teams. Do you tend to see that they jump to it sometimes a little too soon?
For me, when I was doing it, the biggest issue I had making that step to build a team was I was, like you just said, I was looking at it as an expense. Now I got to spend, and back then, 15 years ago, it was $40,000 a year. That was a lot of money. And my concern was, hey, I'm busy during the summer months, but in the winter, I got nothing going on and not as much income. So can I carry that person? Right. So it was almost a fear of having, somebody that I was employing now. Right. But because we made such good use of it, and I had some good guidance on, some coaching to help me get to that level, where we could, assign the proper things to that person. Now, today, I talk to guys all the time that are, they're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm like, man, like, you're killing yourself. Like, just pull the trigger, get yourself somebody part-time. Then if you can't get somebody full-time, get yourself somebody part-time and alleviate a lot of the, the crap that you're doing. I mean, they always categorize it like A, B, and C activities, right? So your A activities are the things that you should be doing, and you should be delegating most of your B and all of your C, which is all the stuff that you don't want to do or don't enjoy doing, right?
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, then you're just going to be so much more productive, and you're going to be, first of all, you're going to feel better. You're going to be healthier. You're going to have time to go to the gym. You're going to have time to, see your family. And then when you do work, you're going to be more productive. I mean, I got to a point where even my clients were starting to say, man, you look tired.
Hey, thanks.
I'm like, really? Really? I don't feel that bad. And I'm drinking coffee and I'm not, haven't been to the gym in 6 months. And because you start eliminating the things that keep you going. Right. Because now you've got to, you want to make sure your clients are happy all the time. So people wait sometimes way too long to do that.
Yeah. Too, I think when you start to see your, riding that roller coaster, you do really, really well at, getting a bunch of business, and then you go into servicing the business and you stop doing the activities that get you the business in the first place. And it's just riding that roller coaster. And it takes a little while to build the machine to get that constant flow of opportunities. And the second you kind of pull off, it's almost like if you let it go for too long, you got to start it over again. And then you just know kind of what we talk about as that cash conversion cycle, right? Before you start to see the cash from those efforts that start to come in. So being able to maintain that, early on, you can kind of get away, a couple admin, a couple buyer's agent, you can kind of get away when you're building the team to get away with, like you understood that, hey, I've got too much. But then it's like, okay, well, hey, let's divide this up. But about that point where you were probably when you were at the 6 going to 7, you're having to go, and we talk about it coming from like a checkers and chess. And, in early on, the checker pieces are all the same. They don't really have to be specialized. Hey, they're just in here. They can do whatever. But then when you were at that point, getting ready to make that jump to go out on your own, the board stays the same, but the pieces flip. And now we're looking for a little bit more specialized, and we got to be a little more intentional of who we're bringing in. What was some of the challenges for you kind of at that point? Right. Hey, we've got 6, we probably got a good core. We got some loyal people. We're running it kind of tight knit as a family, but now we're making the transition here, because there's another stage we'll get to in a second. But this stage that you made that went from 6 to 15, like what were some of the things that if you knew now, you would go back and, make those adjustments, or doing a little bit deeper, or coaching somebody that's kind of going through that? Like, what are some of the things that they need to be aware of going through that next jump, that next stage?
Oh, I know exactly when that was. When I started taking on people that didn't align with my values and my, vision of where I wanted to be and what we wanted to do together collectively. Right. I always like to treat people that are on my team as my partners. I don't even call them, like I've had agents say to me, hey, this is, my assistant so-and-so. Right. And I mean, I would never introduce somebody like that. This is my partner. Right. Yeah. Because we are all partners. We all, they need me for certain things and I need them for certain things. So to me, that's a partnership, not a, not me really having a team. But I know that when we started taking on some people, and I guess, you know, you just get greedy, right? You just think, okay, I'm going to get more and more and more people. But sometimes more is not always better, and more is not always more profitable, right? Because we had people that were coming on that were, you know, producing agents, but they had attitudes. They didn't align with what we were doing. And you know what? It was a gut feeling I had, and that it wasn't the right move. And 2 years later, it totally blew up. Right. One of my guys decides to, after 2 years and doing 20 deals a year, decides to take, you know, my min staff, my, you know, ISA manager, and a few of my agents, and decides to open his own brokerage. Right. And like, I knew, I had a feeling all along that I shouldn't be trusting these people. Right.
Yeah.
So I was too slow to fire. I was too fast to hire, too slow to fire. And you know what? Once that we had that blowout and they left, that changed my whole business, right? Because now I realized it was a really good lesson. Like, it was a
Sure.
good lesson. At the time, was I pissed off? Was I upset? Did I think everything was going to crumble? Yes.
Yes.
Right. I thought everything was going to fall apart. But luckily, my son and my marketing guy at the time, Brent, he was, you know, they stepped up. They just stepped up to the plate, and they said, you know what, we got this. And we just worked it out, and we figured it all out, and we did it together. And it was kind of like a family ordeal at that point. And from then on, we've been pretty profitable.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you learn that lesson, and that gut feel is usually just a core value misalignment and how we behave and what we believe. And, you know, even been through that, what you're talking about a couple times, and it all comes back down to not everybody in alignment. One, you know, one time was just because there was no vision, right? No vision for the organization. Didn't feel or see that I had a place, and because I didn't know what the vision was, right? And I didn't feel like there was an opportunity for me. The other was just complete direction misalignment, right? Like, I envision us going here. This is where you guys envision. It's not, it doesn't work. So being able to be real crystal clear, and this is what we always come back down to is really what is the vision. It's not what the vision is, but what it does, right? It brings everybody together. And you know, that gut feel is the core values, really the compass. That's how we make decisions in pursuit of wherever we're trying to go, which is the BHAG of the goal that you have, right, for this organization, what we're wanting to. And then the third and really powerful component is, you know, what do we stand for? What does this organization represent? What are we doing to pour into our community? And, you know, the gut check question is like, if we were to close up shop, would anybody in the community even care? You know? And that's what really makes up the vision. And when you can kind of collectively come together with that, you know, you know, just like you said, you know, your marketing guy, your son, you know, everybody that's still here is like, hey, this is the vision. Are you guys bought into it? Do you believe in what we're wanting to do? And that's where you get the real buy-in and the real momentum. And I'm sure that's what you felt after they left, is that you got everybody bought in and then you were able to accelerate.
Oh, people were excited that they left. People were excited that, you know, here I thought that they were the reason people were coming to us. And meanwhile, it was like, you know, they were the bad apples, right? It was cancerous. It was awful. So, you know, now I say, I've got a rule: we don't do drama, right? The second I have drama, it's gone. Like, I don't wait anymore. I don't care. It's not about the dollar. It's about, I want a good community. I want good people surrounded around good people that, you know, and the other thing we changed too is that, you know, I used to have a rule that if you weren't doing 20 deals a year, you were fired. January, you were gone, right? Yeah. And my wife at one point said, you know, like, you've got some good people that they don't want to do 20 deals. They want to do 10, and they're happy doing 10, and they're not causing you headaches. They're not causing you problems. They're good for our culture. They're good people. So why don't you allow them to just do what they want to do, instead of you want them to do, you know, what you want them to do, right? And she, you know, she said, not everybody wants to do 100 deals a year, right? Like you. So you've got to accept people for where they're at. So that's kind of what we've changed now. So we're not doing the babysitting. We're not doing the, hey, I'm going to push you and push you and push you. I'm going to help you if you want the help, right? And you guys always use this saying, we're going to help the people that are swimming to the boat,
Yeah.
right? And so now I've had to change to, hey, I'm going to help the ones that want to be helped. And even in the last 12 months, we're changing what we're doing with our team, where, I used to make it a fair thing where everybody got the same amount of leads. It was a rotation and all this. But a few of my people, brought up the point, like, you're actually penalizing the ones that are working their butts off by giving the same amount to the people that are doing nothing, right? So the people that are showing up for the training, the people that are doing open houses, the people that are hustling, they're making the phone calls, they're doing all the stuff that you're telling them to do, they're being penalized for the lazy ones. So this year we've decided that the people that are producing are the ones that are going to get compensated. They're going to get more leads. They're going to get the better leads. They're going to get, more options given to them, right? There's more things that we're going to do for them because they're earning it, right? And, life isn't fair, right? People want, oh, it should be fair. Well, unfortunately, it's not fair. And I think that you have to earn. It's taken a long time for me to figure that out. And, it's one of my staff, said, hey, I think we really need to be focusing on the people that are wanting it and hustling and swimming to the boat. Right. So that's what we're doing this year. So we'll see how that goes.
No, I love it. I mean, to me, it's right, because it's earned, not given, right? You don't want to create that entitlement mentality environment. We don't really want to also create an environment of people being dependent on us. Well, we want them to be resourceful. However, we want to be there to support them. And that's a job, right? When you're taking on and you're building a team is one, like we talked about, you got to have the vision, then you got to be able to articulate the vision. And then, our jobs as head of companies is then to make sure we understand what our people, that's the difference between good and great leadership, right? That next factor is knowing what makes them tick, what are their goals. And then our job is to provide the resources and remove their obstacles so they can achieve their goals. Now, do we have standards within our organization? Absolutely. And I love where you're basing what you're providing based upon what their goals are and their amount of effort, because that's what's in their control, is their effort. Now, if the effort is there and they're doing what it is that our standards require for them to achieve their goals, then it's on us to make sure we're providing the resources and removing the obstacles so they can achieve their desired outcome. And if we can get even those guys that are wanting to do 10 deals a year, or they're wanting to do 70 deals a year, if we can get just everybody winning on a weekly, daily basis, just imagine what that does to your organization and how you start to win based upon whatever your goals are, whatever that achievement is.
I have people doing 10 deals a year that have been with me for like ever.
Yeah.
And that's just what they want to do. That's all they need to do. That's all they want to do. They don't need the money, but they like being involved, and they're great people, and they're good for our culture, and they're a lot of fun to have around. Right. So you can't discard those guys either. Right. So they're all valuable to the team for sure.
And they're probably some of your biggest advocates, right? Some of your biggest cheerleaders as well, out there singing the praises for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we love having them around. Well, we consider them family now, right? Because they've been around for so long. It's like it's nice to have them around, and you'd hate to see them leave or retire or anything, right? So,
I remember we were working with Vern Harnish, and it was actually, I think, the last EGS that we had, and we were up in kind of the conference room, green area where the speakers would come in and out off stage. We just had a kind of a moment with Vern, and he, we talked about his definition of partner. Cause I was running into a little, discrepancy of the language, and it's, I listened, man, this is funny that I'm even thinking this. I was listening to, Jay Shetty was on Ed Milet's podcast, not just here recently, and was talking about love. And he said, the biggest problem is that with people in like with love is that they don't define what it means. And he said, for an example, one person can say, I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. The other person can say, I love you. I want to spend the night with you. And it's a different definition, right? So getting clear of what the words mean. And when we kind of started going down this path, one definition of partner was bringing them on. And hey, we're partners. And then Vern's definition, and what I like to lean towards a little bit more, is that being somebody's partner means what their significant other values. And I was like, holy shit, right? And so like you with like the family, and they've been with you for a long time, I bet what their significant other values because you've spent time with them. And so, if you want to use that language, it's fine, but be clear on what the definition means to both parties. Because if I just come into a relationship with you and your organization and you're calling me a partner, and I have a different definition of partner in my mind versus what in your mind, because see, when I hear partner, I latch onto, okay, what's their significant other and what do they value? Like, if do they value, gifts, what's their love language, right? Getting to know them. That's kind of where I lean more towards that. Whereas somebody might just be, hey, align with me and you're my partner. It's like, okay, that's fine. As long as we know the language we're saying. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of, especially with building teams, right? They have their definition in their mind coming in, what that means. And so being able to get real clear and spell that out, I think can solve a lot of headaches and frustrations for agents looking to build a team, is get real clear on the language you're using so everybody's speaking the same language.
And now we're going to that next level of, listen, I haven't broken any records. We were talking about this beforehand. Nothing ever moves fast enough for me. So I'm always trying to figure out how do I get there quicker and better. But, now we're aligning ourselves with some pretty amazing partners across, the country. For us, right across Canada, right across the US. The other day, we're on, having conversations with new partners in Portugal. Like, I would have never thought that my team would grow to Portugal, right? Yeah. We have people in Mexico, India, right? Like I'm grateful for the 600, and I'm grateful for the people that are partnering us with right now, because we're really starting to see some amazing people joining. And I don't mean, like, when I say amazing, I don't mean somebody who's doing 300 deals a year. That's not my version of amazing. I mean, like, I talked to a guy the other day, he's got 3 kids. He's got the exact same story that I had, right? But he's a lot younger. So I see where he's at. So I'm thinking I can help this guy because I know how to get to where I got to. But I can help him get there a lot quicker without having, the chest pains and the, like the spending time with the family. So I like that idea, because now you look at those kinds of partners and you get excited again, right? So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. EXP's definitely, every day there's something exciting going on, and every time I see excitement in somebody else, it gets me pumped up again, right? Especially a lot of these young guys that we've been bringing on, they're just so full of energy that it just gives me that much more energy, right? Like it's pretty amazing.
And what's exciting you and what lights you up, and Rory Vaden talks about this with his brand builders, is what he talks about is that, because we talk about who's our avatar, right? Who's our ICP, who's our ideal client to work with. And what he says is that you're best equipped to work with the person you once were, right? So like you can really resonate and pour into those individuals because you see yourself in them, and that's who you're best qualified to serve is those type of people. And so it's just fascinating just to be like, man, why does this person light me up? Why do I want to pour into this person so much? You're like, God, yeah, I used to be like that.
Yeah.
So
but it's neat that we get to learn from each other too, right? Like we can learn something from everybody. And this one guy, for example, he's from New York, and we're having this conversation, and he's talking about a bunch of projects that he's doing. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've done that. And we've done a lot of the same things, but now this guy's killing it, and he's absolutely killing it. And I'm thinking, like, I can learn from him as well. So it's a true partnership where we're going to help each other with different things, right? So hopefully he joins us.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And, it's that, kind of that plus minus and equal type of relationship. There's, where we're a mentor pouring into people. We still learn from them as well. Right. And then, there's those that, we're learning from, and then there's those that are peers that are pushing us to be better each and every day. So making sure we have those type of relationships and being able to, just making sure that we're allocating our time and our energy to those that are going to charge us and help us in pursuit of that freedom that we have, and we're able to pour into them and help them achieve the freedom that they're wanting. So Pierre, as we kind of transition, right? So you look at how your model has evolved, right? Like in the beginning, it's usually bringing in some agents to help leverage the opportunities I'm creating. I've got support to keep the lower dollar activities off my plate so I can focus on the activities that really drive our business forward around sales and marketing efforts. And then, we start to make that transition. We're there, we're starting to back out of our production a little bit, but we still have production. And, sometimes I see agents, they jump out too fast and then they get sucked back in. And, usually it's an adjustment in the model to be able to keep them out. There are different times, right? With the season, sometimes you got to have to jump back in for just a little bit, just to, build a little cash flow or, model the behavior that might be falling off. But like for you, they're in production now, transitioning out. What are some of the things that you've learned to be able to driving production, being a big part of it, building the team, but then now to be able to kind of step out of production, and then ultimately where you're still leading from afar, you're not there full time, be able to go back. But what is that kind of that next step that you've experienced?
Man, I wish I knew that answer. You know what? I hate to say this, but I miss production. Every time I do a deal, I'm so excited. I'm so fired up. I think I don't like the buyer side where I'm having to go out and show 20 or 30. I don't do that anymore, but getting a listing, working with a client, helping them get their home sold, that kind of stuff, I still really, really enjoy. The other thing I enjoy about it is that we also like doing flips, right? So, and we haven't been able to do many during COVID because the prices were so crazy that they didn't make sense, but we just did 2 already this year. But the problem is if you're not out in the industry selling, and if you're not out finding the deals, because most of the times they're, you stumble across these deals and you work out a deal with your client and you buy it, and then, you got yourself a flip. So I'm missing out on those opportunities as well. Right. Yeah. So for me, it's trying to find that balance of, okay, I want to do some flips. I want to sell a few homes, and I want to build a huge, massive organization with DXP. Right. So it's doing a little bit of everything and trying to find that balance. Right. But I'll tell you right now, like I stepped out a bit of production from last year. I think I only did 12 or 14 deals last year. And like, I'm starting to miss it. I'm feeling like I need to get back into it. Like I'm going to be 53, next month. And I still feel like I've got a lot of years left. Right. So I don't want to miss out on those opportunities. Again, it's also multiple streams of income while you're still building your team and leveraging and everything else. Right. So I don't know. I don't think that answers your question, but it's not a straight answer. It's because things are constantly changing. Right. The market's constantly changing. When COVID came, that changed the way we did business. Right now, the market, we're out of COVID. Now the market is, completely different again. So we have to shift every time something different happens. And I think, you could have a set model, but, depending on the market and depending on what's going on in the world, you've got to be able to shift pretty quick. Right.
Yeah. It's got to be, you look at model, right? It's like, how do we, what's the value that we can create in today's market? Where is the opportunity? What's the value? How do we deliver it and how do we capture it? And so as it continues to change and evolve, and, we want to stay, kind of thinking through that. And it's just like you said, lockdown, we had to, go working virtual, right? Even virtual appointments and virtual with everything. And then, kind of where things are at right now, and still low inventory, higher rates, and just how do we navigate who's the real buyers and sellers in today's market, and what's the value that we can provide. is really key. The thing that I noticed most about seeing, kind of that team lead exit out of the day-to-day production, is that there's other opportunities that they're in pursuit of. And, you look at like what for us with Jay, one of the things was that, and this is the biggest challenge that I see a lot of team leaders get in trouble for because they try to exit too quick, is that they build a lifestyle business, and when they start to take their production out, and even compensating them on the production that they're bringing in, is that they've created this lifestyle that if they're not selling houses, then the business can't support their lifestyle. So they're not willing to make that adjustment. And it was one of the things that we struggled with pulling Kinder out the first few times. We got him out the third time, but the first few times was that we were still compensating him based upon his lifestyle when he wasn't in production, because he was in pursuit of bigger opportunities. And so that was a lesson that we learned by pulling him out too fast. I think, the other is that they want to maintain that lifestyle, but the profitability is not there. And so are they in pursuit of something else? Like we got Al out that one time because he was pursuing building out this call center, this ISA call center, and he was building that out, going there. And then obviously, his top people left, which was kind of forced him to almost get back into production, which then forced him to look at EXP. And I just see it over and over, is that like you said, like for us, we were able to kind of offset some stuff because we were doing the flips. We were doing, we got into the developments, we got into new construction, we owned title, right? We owned all these other opportunities that start to come your way when you get to a certain production level and a certain mind share and market share, that those opportunities start to open. And, being able to, how do you identify and pursue those without looking at kind of what got you there, right? Which is the foundation, which is your business. And, Milet talks a lot about this. It's like, people say, millionaires have multiple streams of income. And he's like, man, that's the most misunderstood thing, is that they had one key driver that opened up the other opportunities. And they were probably already earning $1 million with the one, and then they opened up all these other revenue streams to just accelerate in their wealth. And so just really focusing on driving that organization and making it work really efficiently and profitable.
I've got a question for you. So Jay steps out once, steps out twice. The third time, what was the difference between the third time and the first two times?
The first two times was not understanding what I was talking about, the compensation with the salary cap, and having that, being able to, paying him a salary that when he wasn't even in the business. And so we learned that concept from Greg Crabtree in his work with Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. And it was this whole salary cap model. And when we kind of went through that, that's how we were able to get within the salary cap. And that just turned our profitability around just like that. We had to make some tough decisions. We had to let a few people go. He had to make those adjustments. I did too. We got within the salary cap. The other piece is that that's where CHSA and CHBA were created, right? We created the Certified Home Selling Advisor within AEA because now we had a proven, repeatable system that wasn't hero driven. Whereas a lot of agents build out listing presentations, kind of what we used to call the me monster presentation. Look at my awards. I'm so great. I can do this. We sold so many houses. Yet that's not duplicatable, right? So now we have somebody that's kind of our lead listing agent that now has a presentation that can go out and articulate the value to help potential clients achieve the outcome they're wanting to achieve. And so it became more system driven than people driven. Like they believed our process. They believed that we had a solution to help them achieve. So it was a combination of a couple of those things that kept him out. And so just being able to have things that duplicated, that wasn't, dependent upon him. He wasn't even in the market. We were still using his face and his brand, but he wasn't there. And so that makes a little bit of a challenge as well. but finally able to get him, out, get his face off of it. And, we ended up ultimately selling it to, our key guys that were really kind of running the listing and the buy side of the business. And so it was the move, but getting them to that point, it was salary cap, understanding your numbers, and then, having duplicatable systems that we could train on, that our agents were out there saying the same thing. And it wasn't just all over the place. Those were the two key things.
And then the transition was into the EXP team growth.
Yeah, I think at that point, we had the brokerage in Dallas, and we were rocking. And this goes back to having a strong vision. And at the time, we had a really strong vision of X number of partners within X number of years. And when you set the vision, then you can start asking yourself better questions. What are all the ways to get there? What are all the ways that we can get there? And we turned like this to EXP a few times because we were so latched on to what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble as well, is that they're latched on what they're trying to do. They believe their way is the best way. And that's that whole concept of outcome over ego. And so when you step back away from being right, which is ego, you step away from just trying to be right to, okay, how do I get to right? How do we get to partners faster? And we looked at EXP and we all evaluated it, and it was like, can we get to the vision faster? And the answer was yes. And so that's why the decision was made. And I mean, it was ridiculous. I think the vision was like 2,000 partners in like 10 years. And then, that was achieved in like less than 2. So it's just knowing what the vision is, and then what are all the ways to get there, and really just trying to, always looking for a better way.
Yeah. Jay talked about that the other day in a meeting. I was in a meeting with him, and he said, yeah, that was their vision, 2,000 agents. And now, I don't know. I mean, what's the group at now?
Yeah, Honey Badger Nation's over 13,000. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So it's just a vehicle, right? Finding the right vehicle to get you to where you want to go, whether it's EXP or whatever your vehicle is.
Yeah.
This is obviously, I did it for 17 years, the other way. And, we've achieved more in the last 3.5 years than we did in the first 17. So
Right.
It's definitely a better model for us.
Yeah. And I think, you have to really get clear. The vision should equal, your freedom. And what is freedom for you? Just like we were talking about, what do the words mean? And everybody's definition of freedom is different. So are you designing and building this vehicle, like you said, that's going to allow us to get to our freedom, and really freedom of time? And because that's what we all want. We all want freedom of time to do what we want, when we want, who we want, wherever we want. And so, I mean, you're living that, right? You're living in pursuit to that. And it's definitely, inspirational for a lot of people out there. And I'm definitely pro team. I'm pro new agents getting in, get onto a great team, pro partnership, being able to do that, to build complementary pieces around you, because it just allows you to go faster. It just allows you to go faster.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even, looking at, trying to create a partnership here in Arizona with some agents so that, we could build a team here. Right. And,
Sure.
and again, it's a partnership group, not, me being the team leader or whatever. I mean, I'm going to fund it and do whatever, but, it takes to help everybody grow. But if I help other people grow, then it's going to help me grow as well. And then we can all work together. So that's the neat thing about this model, is that we're able to do it. And yeah, you're right. I mean, we've gotten to, I golf over 100 rounds a year. I probably will not golf that much this year. I got to slow down. I got to slow down. It's a bit of an addiction, right? So I've got to slow down, because I'm not getting any better. So I might as well slow down. But it's almost like a retirement feel, right? People say, hey, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, there's no reason for me to retire. This feels like retirement. I get to work with some amazing people. I've got an amazing team. I've got some amazing staff. Like, they are just like unbelievable. And, I'm very fortunate to be surrounded with some great people and a great family. Right. And now my 2 sons are in the business. Right. And it's a pretty cool feeling, for sure.
Yeah, I love it. It is. It's really cool. And Dan Sullivan has this thing about retirement, because if you think of the word retirement, it's if you think either you're growing or you're dying, where does retirement fall? And he says, once you know what your freedom is, you never retire from in pursuit of your freedom. He said, now, do you retire from activities? Do you retire from relationships? Do you retire from certain things? He said, yes. He said, but however, you never retire in pursuit of your vision of your freedom. And he said, once you find that, like it'll never cross your mind to think, oh, I need to retire.
Nope.
It's really powerful.
I
Yep.
think, I think retiring would not be healthy.
No.
I
No.
just think it's the way we're wired, right? I think we love to be busy. We love doing what we do. And if you enjoy it, then it's not a big deal, right? And
Not
it
at
doesn't feel
all.
like work. Yeah.
Not at all. It never does.
Yeah.
So Pierre, just kind of as we kind of wrap and where you're at in this stage, the season of your life, the season of the business, where, listening to somebody that, speaking to somebody, maybe two things, two parts here, speaking to somebody new, thinking about building a team, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give them? And then, the agent that is kind of at that stage of, okay, do I want to just stay right here? Do I need to go through some more growth to where I can get to really possibly exit production and just be the true, CEO of the organization? Like, what advice would you give to those two different agents?
Get a coach. Get a coach that knows what they're doing. So there's two things, right? Get a coach, but you got to get a coach that knows how to build teams, that has done it before. That is, one of the questions they should be asking is, how many teams are you working with? What have you, accomplished, in your career? Like, you look at you and I'm not here to, to plug John Kitchen's coaching, but I am really, because you've been a great mentor to us and a great coach. And you helped my son grow his business. He's starting to build a team out now too. And so I think you need somebody who's going to guide you so that you don't make the mistakes, right? Because the mistakes can be very, very costly. And, you'll get frustrated. So if you're not doing it properly, you're not systemizing it, so get together with somebody. And the one thing that I like about our organization is that we're all sharing each other's playbooks with each other, right? When I was at, the company I was at before, Royal LePage, the guys that I knew there, they weren't sharing their playbooks with me because I was their competition, right? They weren't willing to share because they knew that if I grew, then I might take away, some of their market share. Whereas with us, we're all sharing our playbook and we're all helping each other, right? So I think that would be my biggest advice is line yourself up with somebody who has done something that you want to do. I remember I had a coach one time who, I didn't find this out till about 6-7 months into the coaching, and it wasn't cheap. And I was always trying to get to 500 deals a year, right? We were running 250, 300, and I found out that this guy had never sold more than 50 homes in ever, right? And I thought, how is he going to teach me how to get to where I got to go if he's never done it, right? Or he's never taught anybody how to do it. Okay, yeah. So you need somebody that has the experience, right? Like, I went to you because you knew, you were around it. You helped somebody else get to that level to where I wanted to go. Right. So that was crucial for us. I think that's probably the most important thing.
I love it. I love it. I agree. When I walked into the real estate world, back in the end of 2004, it's always been, who do we need to, we've lived that who equation, right? Who do we need to be working with? Who do we need to be talking to help us overcome, this challenge, this next step? And it's been a big part of our lives. Shit, I have 3 coaches just because I just understand the importance of that. And you're so spot on, right? It gets a little bit of a challenge. Just don't try to figure it out on your own.
And the next piece of advice is get in the right room with the right people, right? Surround yourself with, I was just telling you that, I'm going to this mastermind event with 50 agents for the next 2 days. And I'm so pumped about being in this room. Like, I'll be the smallest agent in that room from what I'm hearing. And I'll just, and I remember the first mastermind I went with you guys, there was 100 agents there. We're down in Florida, and I was embarrassed to stand up and talk about my production and what we had done. I thought I was a big deal going into that room, and then everybody else was standing up and, you know, saying what the production they had done. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna lie. I gotta lie. This is just too embarrassing, right? But that motivates you and it helps you grow. Like, I can't wait to hear what's going to happen in these next 2 days, so I can learn from these, you know, mega producers that are going to share their playbook. And guess what? They have nothing to gain from me being in that room, right? Because I'm not even in their organization, but they're willing to share their playbook with me to help me grow. And that's what's exciting about, you know, our culture and our organizations.
Yeah. And surrounding yourself with those type of people.
Yeah.
It's key.
Yeah. I'm pumped just thinking about it. I can't wait.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. You know, that's what this expert mentor series is all about, is just having conversations with you know, the rock stars like yourself that just here to add value and share the lessons learned, what's working, and the direction and where we're going. So appreciate you jumping in, making the time. You know, everybody listening to this, make sure you guys connect with Pierre, give him some love, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it.
See you, bud. Bye.